This is the bit where Pat first meets the ghost. Him and Dom have rescued Shamie from the sea, and they've both gone to bed and kind of fallen asleep. I don't think I slept. I never quite lost the sense that I was right there in my bed, but the world seemed to drift away for a while, leaving just the sound of my breathing and Dom's breathing and the lovely heat of the hot water bottle at my feet. After a while I rose to the surface, just enough to know that I needed to move. I rolled onto my back, instantly comfortable again, eyes closing. The blustery wind of earlier had escalated, and there was a proper storm blowing outside. Something rattled its way from one end of the garden to the other, and the windows knocked rhythmically in their frames. The TV aerial on the roof creaked and groaned, and to my drowsing mind, it felt like I was deep in the belly of some wooden ship. I listened contentedly, smiling. I was just beginning to wonder why things were so quiet in the kitchen, when a voice in the bunk above mine whispered, "The bad man is here." I opened my eyes and stayed very still. That wasn't Dom. That wasn't his voice. The wind groaned through the eaves, a low monotone. A spattering of rain peppered the window. It was so quiet downstairs. No TV, no radio. I couldn't hear Ma and Dad. I couldn't hear Dee. It was just me, floating alone in the noise of the storm, and someone who wasn't Dom, whispering, "If we're not careful, the bad man will find us. He'll take you away and we'll..." The urgent flow of words halted, as though the speaker was listening for something. The gale rushed past the windows in a sudden, irritated shh. I tried to make no noise. I tried not to breathe. If I turned my head, I'd be able to see the dressing table mirror. I'd be able to look. There was no nighttime gloom now. The top bunk would be lit up, clear as the rainy grey twilight that filled the room. All I had to do was look, but I didn't turn my head. I just couldn't. And then it came again, that whisper, a sharp, fearful hiss. "Do you hear him?" The bunk above me creaked, the distinctive sound of Dom sitting up. My eyes got so big it felt as though they might roll out of their sockets. My hands cramped into fists in the blanket. I was staring at the top bunk, waiting, and then I heard my brother's voice, quiet, inquisitive, uncertain. "I don't hear anything," he said. "Oh God, Dom, who are you talking to?" I opened my mouth to ask this question when the stranger's whisper came again. "But he's here. He's here all the time. He wants us. He'll hurt us. We must be careful." Dom answered, his voice low now, nothing but a whisper. "Is he here now?" "Oh yes, I think so." Right above my head, Dom moved. I could imagine him drawing his knees up and hugging them to his chest, the classic pose for Dom when he was frightened. "You're scaring me," he said softly. "Oh, don't be frightened. I'll take a look, shall I?" More creaking, but not above my head, no, not where Dom was sitting. This creaking was at the foot of Dom's bed. Something was sitting at the end of Dom's bed. I shifted my terrified gaze in that direction. I could hear something up there, crawling towards the ladder. Something was going to look over the edge. It was going to look over the edge of Dom's bunk. My fear was working its way up my chest, into my throat. It was building itself up into a scream. I was going to scream. I was going to scream right now. A small, pale hand grabbed the edge of Dom's bunk. Little fingers curled around the mattress. I could see the indents in the fabric where they gripped tight. There was a pause, as though it was too frightened to look, and then a small, pale, dark-eyed face cleared the edge. It was a boy, maybe 10 years old, white face, dark, dark eyes, underscored with deep lines, surrounded with purple shadows. His cheeks were hollow and filled with shadows. He scanned the gloom of my bunk with fear, his white lips compressed. It took a moment for him to register my presence. Then his eyes jumped to mine. I flinched, terrified by the certainty that we had done this before. Me looking up at him looking down at me, a solemn-eyed boy of 10, untouched by the wind and rain. The child quickly recovered from the shock of seeing me, and then his sunken, sick-looking face hardened into loathing, and without taking his eyes from mine, he hissed to the person up above me, to Dom, to my brother, "He's here." The bunk squeaked overhead as Dom shifted suddenly, and I heard him gasp in fear. The little white child reached his whole arm over the edge and gripped the middle rung of the ladder as though he meant to crawl down head first. He glared at me and bared his little teeth, and they were black against the snowy white of his lips. That scream bubbled up inside me, and I opened my mouth to let it out.